Welcome everyone to the Raw Real Talks Healing Edition. Actually, it's the Raw Real Talks Fashion Edition. I am your host today. I'm Janet Namaste. Welcome to the third edition of the New York Fashion Week Talks on Raw Real Talks. And I am actually the host of the Healing Edition. I'm so used to saying that over and over, where we share tips and tools of aligning with your life's purpose. And I have the great honor of co-hosting of what Mariama Kamara has birthed 3 years ago, which is the New York Fashion Week Talks. And we want to go beyond the glamorous parts of the fashion world and bring to surface the important issues that are affecting our industry and our world. And today I have the honor of speaking with Emilie. Here she is, Emilie McGlone, who has been working with the Peace Boat since 2004. And without further ado, I'm trying to get you in here. Here we go, Emilie.
Hello, how are you, Emilie?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. Really glad to be here with you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure. And where in the world are you? Traveling around.
Right now, I'm actually in Honolulu, Hawaii. We are here for the Pacific Island Conference of Leaders, which is 20 heads of state from around the Pacific coming together around ocean conservation and climate action. I'm here with Peace Boat and also with Blue Planet Alliance.
Beautiful. So please introduce yourself and the work that you have been doing in the world.
Thank you. Well, first of all, just congratulations on these amazing talks that are happening around fashion and the environment. It's so important that we highlight these topics and that we get everyone involved for environmental sustainability. I've been working with Peace Boat, as you mentioned, since 2004, and we're an international nonprofit organization that works to promote a world of peace and sustainability through our global voyages on board the ship of the Peace Boat. So we have guest speakers and lectures that happen on board the ship every day, talking about all kinds of issues, especially related to the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So whether it be human rights or poverty reduction or education, environmental sustainability, ocean and climate action, or partnerships for the goals, we're working on all 17 goals to help achieve a more sustainable future. And I started out in Peace Boat working as actually a volunteer. I joined as a Spanish teacher. So for anybody who's watching today, you're welcome to join us as a volunteer as well. And I traveled around the world for 3 months, which is our global voyage. We visited around 20 countries. And during those 3 months, I met so many incredible guest speakers. I met so many people who are working on various issues that really were important to me around the world. And then I continued working with Peace Boat. Now I've been with them for around 18 years. And I currently work as the director of the United Nations office in New York City, where we liaison with United Nations delegates, Nobel Peace Laureates, leaders in the fields, and experts in so many different issues to bring the voice of civil society and the United Nations together to help make that positive change in the world.
Oh, that's amazing. Have you been, as Peace Boat's U.S. director, have you been involved with the organization since its launch?
Yes, well, our partners, while I was living in Tokyo at the time, and our partners from Peace Boat were able to open the office in New York City. So we're a bit of a satellite office where the headquarters is based in Tokyo. I also lived in Japan for 10 years.
Wow.
And that's where the majority of our colleagues are living. We have a couple of colleagues in Europe and around the world, but now I work solely in New York City and then coordinate programs on the Peace Boat, mostly in Latin America, sometimes in Asia, when we're traveling around the world.
Yeah, when I went onto the site, I saw that there was like a strong collaboration between US and Japan. And then when I started reading about you, I said, wow, she was living in Japan, which is incredible. What were you doing in Japan years ago?
So I actually went with the JET program. It's called the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program, which I also really recommend to anybody who would like to go to Tokyo or live in Japan. They highlight the cultural exchange between native English speakers, as myself, or many people from around the world, to teach English in different areas of Japan, mostly in rural areas. So I lived in Gunma-ken, which was great for me because I love snowboarding. I was racing, snowboarding, and skiing back in university, and I was really excited to live near the mountains of Japan. They have great snow there. So I was living in Gunma, which is about 2 hours outside of Tokyo. And then I did an environmental awareness bike ride for 3,000 kilometers from Hokkaido, the
Wow.
northern island, all the way down to Okinawa, which is the southern island of Japan. And during that bike ride is when I found Peace Boat. So I always just encourage people, follow your passion and do things that excite you, and you'll kind of find your way to the jobs that also encourage you to keep moving in the world of sustainability.
Yeah, it's following your bliss, right? And
That's
like
right.
it'll lead you to exactly where you need to be. So that's incredible. So Peace Boat is involved in everything from climate change to sustainability initiatives, human rights to disaster relief. So what has been the focus of Peace Boat for, the past few years when things were a little bit on a pause?
Yes, we had so many programs happening during these years. We
Hmm.
did take a break from sailing around the world during the pandemic because we
Of
wanted to make sure
course.
that we could travel safely and make sure that also all of the ports that we visit were able to be, welcoming guests from around the world. So we're hoping to sail very soon again, and we look forward to having more people on board with us. We recently also acquired a new ship for the Peace Boat, so we'll have a little bit more space to host programs on board. So we look forward to 2023 as many programs will resume. And during the pandemic, we've been very active, especially in education for young people, engaging people through programs like this online and helping to raise awareness, especially about the Sustainable Development Goals, but also really focus on ocean and climate action. Peace Boat has observer status to COP, which is the United Nations Climate Change Conference. So we've been very active. I participated in COP 25, which was held in Spain, and we held many conferences and side events there and built a really strong network of other organizations working towards climate action. And recently, we also participated in COP26, which was held in Glasgow. And so that was also a great launch pad for so many programs and partnerships to come together for the environment. And we've had many of our young people, especially from small island developing.
I can't hear you. Give me 1 second. I don't know if it's your audio or mine. So let me just wait.
Oh, can you hear me? Can we hear you
Yes,
okay?
now I can. Yes. Yeah. So you were
Okay,
saying
great.
about from the small islands, the younger community that, right?
That's
That's the
right.
last I heard.
Okay, yes, the small island developing states, we have many young people that are part of our Ocean and Climate Youth Ambassador program. So those young people are affected by climate change directly because those are low-level lying islands. And so they really feel the sea level rise, and they're, in danger of losing their homes and becoming climate refugees because of that. So we've invited these young people to participate in these United Nations high-level conferences and share their stories and testimonies and really be the ones to help raise awareness about these issues. So really excited to just continue engaging youth. We also launched a Youth for the SDG Scholarship Program. So for young people and also designers and those of you who are interested in innovation and the SDGs between the ages of 18 to 30 years old, we've created a scholarship program to encourage young people to come on board the Peace Boat and share best practices and also share challenges and solutions on what they're doing for climate action and the SDGs. So really just engaging young people, being a part of the solution, looking for positive answers and ways to be innovative through our programs. And with that came our most innovative idea yet, which is Peace Boat's next stage of creating the Eco Ship, which will be the future ship of Peace Boat, which will be a ship that will run on solar and wind power. Right
Wow.
now, we're hoping to reduce our CO2 by at least 40% in the next
Yeah.
stage, and then work towards Eco Ship Zero, which will be a zero emissions carbon ship that will be a passenger ship to host all of our programs on board. And we have experts like Dr. Sylvia Earle, National Geographic Explorer in residence, Fabian Cousteau, and others who are helping lead the way and giving us advice as well on how to have a marine research laboratory on board and how to do, scientific research with citizen science so young people can also get involved and learn these skills because the ocean, as we know, is really the life source of this planet and we have to protect it. So we're working towards all of these issues at the same time. And the pandemic hasn't really slowed us down too much. We've been very active during this time.
That's incredible. It's like the electric car, the equivalent of the electric car, this eco ship.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible because when I was reading about the Peace Boat and when I was watching the videos, first of all, my heart was absolutely full of listening to the young people expressing of how much depth and how much they've learned through the programs that you have been teaching and you've been offering. And one really stuck out for me was there was a young boy that mentioned about how he can actually just be himself without censorship, that he can learn, it's a really beautiful, powerful program that that this organization is doing. So thank you, really, thank you for all that you are teaching and that you're putting out there. This is incredible. But throughout all of your voyages, because it seems like, I mean, it's unbelievable, all these different experiences and the depth of your experiences. Like, you should be probably 200 years old, but you look like you're 20. but of all of these voyages and travel, is there one particular experience, one interaction that stays with you, that was really like an aha moment, or something that really cracked open your heart and that really was impactful? Someone or something that you'll always remember, that impacted your life through the Peace Boat?
There's so many experiences, honestly, that I want to
Sure.
share. I like what you just mentioned also about the young man who was able to study and learn about all these things openly, because the basis of Peace Boat, was founded in 1983 by 4 university students who were looking to make a change in the world. And the director and current founder, Yoshioka Tatsuya, continues to lead in that way. And Peace Boat is very independent. So although we work with United Nations very closely and work with civil society, we're always able to voice our own opinions and to support the work of sustainability and peace in any situation that we need. So it's a very open organization to learning and gaining that knowledge. And so I think for me, the experiential learning aspect of Peace Boat has been really incredible. I've traveled around the world 6 times on the boat so far as international director and creating programs. And each time that I go around the world, I learn something new. So one thing that stands out to me, I have maybe 2 experiences that really stand out. And one was visiting a Palestinian refugee camp in Jordan, which was really incredible because I was able to learn directly from the refugee families and learning with them and spend the night in their homes. We do an overnight program where we learned about the conflict in the Middle East and really gaining that firsthand knowledge, which is something that we often say is kind of the Peace Boat way of traveling, because you wouldn't normally gain an experience like that when you go to Jordan to visit a Palestinian refugee camp. And then another experience I would say is going to Patagonia. And that's definitely changed my life because I studied abroad in South America when I was younger. And I had been to Patagonia hiking with my girlfriends. We took our backpacks and went out exploring. But when I went with Peace Boat, I was able to meet the organization called CODEF, which is a national committee to protect the flora and fauna of Chile. And they brought on board 6 young people from the southern region of Argentina, Brazil, and Chile to protect Patagonia. And that inspired me to continue our youth program. So I actually learned from those youth how we can come together for conservation of the environment. And we continue today. I think I've been now to Patagonia around 13 times, coordinating programs with young people and traveling and bringing artists and musicians and activists to learn about, the glaciers and see firsthand the impacts of climate change, because those glaciers are the natural resources, the pristine water and nature that is untouched and really is something that we have to conserve. We all know that the melting glaciers is a major issue right now around the world. We've seen temperatures rising everywhere, and it's just so important for us to be able to conserve that nature. So it's definitely changed my life and encouraged me to continue working together for conservation.
That's beautiful. So can you connect the dots for our audience on how climate change impacts communities, countries, when it comes down to quality of life? Because here I am in New York, right? And there are glaciers that are melting, by the hundreds of thousands, but yet, okay, it's a hot day, but, I'm very much connected to it, but how can you connect the dots for our audience, for those that don't understand about how it really affects quality of life, of poverty levels worldwide, and how it can affect every single person on this planet today?
Absolutely. I feel like in New York City, like you mentioned, it really is showing an effect of the heat waves and the heat island of the city. Being in Manhattan, our office is based in the United Nations Plaza, and you feel it when you're walking to the office, just the heat between the buildings. And so I really think that we need to work towards, sustainable cities, which is also one of the sustainable development goals of the UN, and working towards creating greener spaces in large cities, but especially in rural areas. There are so many things that are affected by climate change, from, you know, the desertification of crops and looking at food access and security. I know there's a lot of even food deserts in the US, which is a term that many people don't use that often, but it's areas where you can't find fresh produce that's grown locally. And so I know I have friends who are working now on all kinds of projects to bring fresh foods into local stores in rural areas. And without that proper nutrition, you know, young people are not able to really get the vitamins and the important, you know, growth that they need sustainably. But then also looking at access to water, which is another big issue. In 2023, there's going to be a water conference at the United Nations, all focused on the importance of water. And I think droughts around the world and now flooding in Pakistan,
Flooding,
if you look at what's happening, you know, it's either one way or the other.
It's extremes.
Exactly. That's the thing with climate change. It's just the climate is changing, right? It's some people kind of confuse climate change with global warming. They're a little bit different.
Exactly.
Global warming is also happening. The earth is heating up and the, you know, temperatures rising, sea levels are then rising because of the melting glaciers going into the oceans. But also climate change just means that the climate is changing, which makes it unpredictable for us, for the seasons and for protecting homes and things like that, especially against natural disasters. I'd say one of the things that Peace Boat's been working on since 2011 was when the tsunami, earthquake, and nuclear disaster happened in Fukushima. Peace Boat was one of the first organizations on the ground. We sent thousands of volunteers to help because there were so many people who had to evacuate their homes and were affected by the tsunami and the earthquake, you know, and then the nuclear disaster. So we call it the triple disaster. And these kind of things can happen everywhere. So we're really working for, disaster relief and humanitarian efforts. We've just seen so many natural disasters increasing in the world. And so we created actually the Peace Boat Volunteer Center specifically for natural disasters to create a space to educate people what to do in case of a natural disaster, because as it increases in the world, we need to make sure that we can be prepared and definitely have help and assistance immediately during those disasters. So that's something we've been really focused on.
Right. It's a backup plan, then a backup plan, but you're part of the solution also. So of being able to offer different types of solutions, offering this type of educational resource. So positively impacting these younger generations seems to be a primary focus of Peace Boat US.
That's right.
I have a child who's a freshman in college and another child who's a sophomore in high school. And I think this is absolutely imperative that students shall and should get involved. So can you provide some information to how to get students involved in this program?
Absolutely. You can visit our website. So we have two different websites. We have Peace Boat US, which is peaceboat-us.org. And we have a volunteer page on there as well. So you can sign up to volunteer and you can get involved. We also have an internship program, which is based in the United States at our office in the United Nations headquarters, where we have actually a possibility for all of our young people to come and receive a badge to the UN and participate in UN events. We also have a hybrid program, which we started since 2020, where people from around the world can sign up and also volunteer. Our internship hours are usually Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 5. So we just request that you're online and ready to participate in all the exciting programs that we have every year during the spring, summer, fall, and winter. So you can sign up anytime during the year on a rolling basis on our website. And then we also have peaceboat.org/English. Because most of our participants do come from Asia. We have Japanese, Chinese, English, Korean, Spanish spoken on board, so many languages. And you can join as a volunteer on board as well. So as I mentioned, I started as a volunteer Spanish teacher. So you can teach Spanish or English as a second language on board. And then we also have volunteer translator positions. If you speak any of those languages I just mentioned, you can sign up as a translator and join us on board. And those are really the most incredible, I think, positions, because you get to travel and meet all of the guest speakers and learn about all the issues. And as you're translating, you're taking in all the information that you then have to output in another language. So I think the translators always learn so much on board, and you really come out with so much knowledge about, our planet and all the things that are happening as we travel.
That's such an incredible, to be a translator in the middle of sea and learning about all these different resources and sustainability and about how to help climate change. I think that's incredible. Is Spanish is not your native language, is it? Or you learned it when you were studying in South America, you were saying?
That's right. Yeah, Spanish is not my native language. I studied at UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina, and I took Spanish as a minor. And then I ended up volunteering a lot. always encourage people to go out and get involved. So I went to Mexico, I was in El Salvador, and then Guatemala working with medical students and just getting really involved in humanitarian work. And Spanish suddenly became my second language. So, and especially studying in Chile, I was with the School of International Training there, which is an immersive program. And so I used that ability and language skill to teach Spanish as a second language on board the ship. So you don't have to be a native Spanish speaker.
Mhm.
You can be a second language speaker and still teach and volunteer on board.
An amazing opportunity. So, so finally, as we're coming to the end of our conversation, and I thank you so much because I know it's about 6 a.m. Pacific time. So thank you for rising up and waking up early for us. So
My
I would
pleasure.
love, yeah, it's really an honor. It really is. I was really looking forward to meeting you as well and sharing your story and your mission with our community. So tell us, on the Raw Real Talks community, we always want to know what makes you raw, what makes you real, and what ignites your heart to make you speak and to talk.
Oh, so many things. And, especially our environment, just being surrounded by nature. A lot of people ask, how do I keep momentum? How do I stay involved in all the activities for so many years? And I always say, I really enjoy forest bathing, they call it, walking in nature, being surrounded by nature, kind of walking through the forest and kind of getting that feeling of being surrounded by our ecosystem. And, I mentioned that I love snowboarding and skiing. So being in nature and being on the mountain, Patagonia as well is such a hot spot for me. So really being surrounded by large and inspiring nature keeps me going and keeps me excited to protect this beautiful planet that we live on, and, for this also being part of the fashion talks, I think it's so important that we think about the impact of fashion also on our environment, always trying to use, I went shopping and this is from, like a used vintage store and, just making sure that we're not over consuming, making sure that we're giving back to our environment and just living in a way that's sustainable. I try to do everything sustainably, from the little things, bringing your bag to go shopping, buying vintage clothes or used clothes in some way, like giving things a second life and not making everything single use, no single use plastics, and just being sustainable in our daily practices and remembering that this planet is one planet and that, we are all together living on this earth. And so we're all interconnected. I think that's what Peace Boat has taught me.
Correct.
As I travel around the world, you see, how connected every ocean is to each country and that, it's all one. So I think that's always been inspiring to me, this being in nature and being surrounded by beauty that we have to protect.
Yeah, it's the magnificence of life. And we're here just for a short minute of time. So might as well, learn how to preserve and really embrace the beauty of Mother Earth and sharing that. So thank you so much for your beautiful heart. Thank you for your time and for all that you're doing. So, and we'd love to have you on again as a guest and hear about all of your adventures. And it's an honor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for hosting. And I'm looking forward so much to, meeting all the other speakers and watching the talks throughout the day. And then let's take action for Climate Week in New York. We have so many events coming up. So save the date for September 23rd for us. We'll be doing events and lots of other things coming. So we'll be posting in the chat and getting everybody involved and let's make a difference together.
Absolutely. We'll be sharing it. Absolutely. It takes us all. It takes more than a village, right?
It does. It takes a planet. Yes.
Thank you so much, Emilie.
Thanks, everyone.
Many blessings to you. All the best to you. Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.